Before you use unfolded, whatever it was, whatever. The point is, the point is, we don't spell the code. Because we don't spell the code. When you're at home with the toilet.
I've got pressure now, Yoda. You know pressure you do it.
Like this. Do you? Because it's your money. When it comes down to your money, sure.
Oh, don't have that nice speed, do you then?
We haven't got any.
Good evening.
You have that.
You don't have a million.
Sometimes.
We're up to Daf Chof Gimel on with Beis, Nima Ketanoi, which is about 7 or 8 lines from the bottom. We're discussing getting rid of the ashes on the Mizbeach, and there are 2 completely separate avodas. One is called Yisroel Sadesh, and the one is called Truma Sadesh. Truma Sadesh occurred every day. Yisroel Sadesh was just clearing the Mizbeach. That is clear. There's a machlekes Rabbi Lezan and Tanakama regarding Yisroel Sadesh as to whether a Baal Mum is allowed to do Yisroel Sadesh. Rabbi Lezan says a Baal Mum is allowed to, and Tanakama says a Baal Mum is not allowed to. That's regarding Yisroel Sadesh, which is what? Clearing all the ashes of the Mizbeach. Regarding Truma Sadesh, we have a machlekes between who and who? Shlokish and his counterpart. And Rabbi Yehuda always. Rabbi Yehuda and Shlokish was arguing. Even though Rabbi Yehuda was one who taught to Shlokish, but when Shlokish died, Rabbi Yehuda said, I don't need a chabusa that agrees with me, I need a chabusa that argues with me. Yeah. And what happened was, Rabbi Yehuda and Shlokish argued regarding Truma Sadesh as to whether a Baal Mum is allowed to do Truma Sadesh. That is the question. And we started darshan a pasuk, which is the beginning of Tzav, which the pasuk describes, and it says there, "V'lovash hakein midubad u'michnes hibrad yilbash." The word lovash comes twice, lovash yilbash, which is strange. And we also discussed the michnes and the midoy. The midoy means the shirt, michnes means the trousers. Now, according to one pshat, it means that he only wore trousers and shirt, he didn't wear a hat, and he didn't wear a belt, because it wasn't a real avodah. According to Rabbi Yehuda, though, he did wear everything, but the Torah specifies just the shirt and the trousers for 2 specific halachas. What are 2 specific halachas?
One's got to fit precisely.
Like midoi, the shirt has to fit precisely, and trousers is?
Has to be outside.
Meaning you can't put something else first. You can't put on his shirt, then his trousers. When a Kohen dresses in the morning, he dresses first the trousers, then the shirt. So now the God says, let's say this machlekes, which we just mentioned, regarding Yisroel Sadesh, is a machlekes tanoi. Al besoi ma'tamod yilbash. Why did it say yilbash if it said al besoi? The Agmor answers 3 different answers. Lahovi mitznefes va'avne, to include that he also has to put on a hat and a belt. Lahavoma for the Truma Sadesh and Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, even though the Torah doesn't mention for the Truma Sadesh that you have to wear a belt and a hat, but the Torah says yilbash, he shall wear, to include those. After Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol would take his clothes. By the way, how much were those clothes worth? Anybody know? Wish you know how much the clothes were worth? The clothes the Kohen Gadol wore in Yom Kippur. They were very, very, very expensive, astronomical price. And after that, he could never use them again.
What year?
Every
year got a new set?
Right. Every year got a new set. Now the question is, can a Kohen Hedyot, even the Kohen Gadol can't use it again, but can a Kohen Hedyot use it again? Says Rabbi, so the word Yilbash comes to teach us, yes, that a Kohen Hedyot can use the clothes of the Kohen Gadol after Yom Kippur without looking inside. Moshe, tell us 2 questions on that statement. We had it once before. I'm sure it was written on your fridge, but in your space. Slightly different. That once the Kohen Gadol used it for Yom Kippur, you're not going to use it for Kohen Hedyot. It's Bali Mekunish for Meridin. No, that's when it wore out. He didn't wear it out. He only wore it for 1 day. Another question is, what color was the clothes of the belt on Yom Kippur? What color was it?
White.
Pure white. What did the Kohen Hedyot wear during the year? Colored. So let's see. Rabbi speak the Kohen Gadol Kohen Hedyot. Rabbi state Shuvas. I have 2 questions on the matter. 4 lines from the bottom of the on Beis. It's not the same belt. Void, begodim shnishtamesh to when bekedusha chamut, shtamish ben kedusha kalo. After using it in Yom Kippur, you're going to use it now for Kohen Hedit. And the matter of Yildash, top of Chavdalef, Domodalef, the rabbis es hashchokim to include the worn out. So now we have three explanations as to why the Torah, after saying, Balovash he shall wear the shirt and the trousers, the Torah then adds, Yilbash he shall wear. What are the three different things we can learn from the word Yilbash?
Don't worry again.
No, that's all we learned. Yilbash would do. Again.
I
Either Yilbash to include the belt and the hat, that's the first shitta. Or that Kohen Hedit can wear the Kohen Gadol's clothes the rest of the year. The third explanation, this is from the Yilbash. The Yilbash that even if it's worn out. The Lovash, Yilbash, even if it's worn out. Again, what are the three drashas from the word Yilbash? Either that you also has to wear a belt and a hat, or that what the Kohen Gadol wears in Yom Kippur, Kohen Hedit can wear during the year, or Levavitz is Hashchokim, that's the top of Dalef, that is allowed to use worn out clothes. Now with Darshan V'nicham Shom, that's the Kohen Gadol after Yom Kippur would put his clothes in Keniza. Can you imagine? He would spend an absolute fortune on his clothes.
Personally, or?
Oh no, not personally. No, we'd get it from the 30 mana. We'll talk about it. There's machlekas there, 30. There's two shittahs, but nice. You're right. There's one shittah is 30 mana. And after a shittun in Geniza, what would you do with it? You'd put it away, never use it again. You can't wear it again for another Yom Kippur. But the Maisa, you can wear it for Kohen Hedit. Now, in the word Yilbosh, that's according to Rabbi. He holds that the belt of the Kohen Hedit during the year was white and not colored. That's a machlokes. You must remember, we had three things. Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur, everybody agreed was white. Kohen Gadol during the rest of the year, everybody agreed that the belt was colored. The machlokes was only Kohen Hedit in the rest of the year. The machlokes of Yilbash, as to whether that includes the belt and the hat, what's the machlokes? Says, well, I'll give you a simple explanation. We had the machlokes of Bichel and Mishlokish whether the Trumas Hadeshan was an important avodah. According to Bichel, was there an important avodah? Yes. According to Mishlokish, it was not. So it makes sense according to Shlokish that you don't need to wear all four clothes. You only need to wear two, because according to Shlokish, even the Baal Mum is allowed to do it. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, if we're going to learn it from, if it's not a proper avodah, how many clothes? Maybe only two. The machlokes as to whether Yilbash is to tell us that we need to include the belt and the hat is the machlokes as to whether you need to wear all four clothes or not. My la the mass of avodah is a proper avodah, so you need the word Yilbash to include the hat and the belt. Mass of a lava avodah is not an avodah, and if you don't need the belt and the hat, and that's why you don't need the word Yilbash for that, use it for something else. Look. The Kulan avodah he agrees it's an avodah. Mass of tzvicha kol mass of tzvicha kol. Everybody agrees that the Tumas Hadeshin requires four clothes. According to one man, the word Yilbash is to include the belt and the hat. According to the other man, it's not necessary. Why is it not necessary? Because it is obvious that it's not according to Shloch, it's according to Rabbi Yochanan. That according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's proper avodah. The Torah mentions the belt, the shirt and the trousers, and the Torah does not need to mention the other two because it is obviously included. Because Rabbi Yochanan holds it's a proper avodah. Okay. So the Ma'aser, we've got different machlokes about Yilbash, 3 pshatim in Yilbash, and now we're finished really with this machlokes of Bichel and Shlokish regarding the Tumas Hadeshin. Rambam paskins the Tumas Hadeshin isn't avodah, and therefore Yisroel cannot do the Tumas Hadeshin. But Mum can't do the Tumas Hadeshin. Boy of Ovin, Tumas Hadeshin becamo. You go to the top of the Mizbeach, you see a pile of ashes. You had a mitzvah to take Tumas Hadeshin. Truma always means a portion. How much should you take? A tenth, half, a quarter. Oh, with Tumas Ma'aser, to learn from Tumas Ma'aser, which is a tenth. Or with Tumas Midyan, from Tumas Midyan. How much was in Tumas Midyan? Anybody know? But after the battle of Midyan, they brought back tremendous amounts of spoils. And then it was divided amongst Klal Yisrael and they had to be a special tax. How much was the tax? No, much less.
15?
1 in 500. That's 0.2%. So do we learn it from Tumas Midyan, which is 1 in 500, or from Tumas Ma'aser, which is 10th? Now Ben said a 10th, and Rashi says a 10th. There are others that disagree, that Tumas Maisa is not really a tenth. How much is Tumas Maisa to be precise? What is Tumas Maisa?
9.8.
What? No. Tumas Maisa is what I do is, let's say I get 100 measures of wheat. I give 10 to the Levi, which is a tenth, and the Levi gives a tenth of that to the Kohen. So how much is Tumas Maisa? It's 100th of the original tenth. Some argue that the one never meant to give a tenth. Of course not. Only one in 100, and 1 in 500, which makes it slightly less dramatic, the difference. Obviously, it's all going to be by estimate. It's impossible for the Kohen to stand and sift through the ashes and work out. But the question is, how much is he supposed to estimating? Is he estimating 1 in 100 and 1 in 500? There's a very, very ancient thesis, the top thesis over here. The thesis says there's other kinds of things we could guess. What about Truma Gedola? How much is Truma Gedola? A 40th, 50th, or 60th. So why not Truma Gedola? What about Challah? How much is Challah? Yehuda will tell us, because a 24th, unless you're a baker, and how much is it? 48th. So he asks, why does the Gemara only suggest Tumas Midyan and Tumas Maisa? What about all the others? And Tisveinshi points out that only by Tumas Maisa and by Tumas Midyan does he use the word Harama. Like the other ones he uses Truma or Hafrosha or V'yikholi or Matana. Oh, the word Harama is only used by Midyan, by Moisa Meches, and here by Tumas Hadesh it says Vehevim Mimenu Bekumsoy, and by Tumas Maisa it says Bawi Moisa Mimenu. So there, it's all the places it says Harama. So that's why the Gemara clears. Says the Gemara, Tol Shema, the Tony of Chia Nema Kam Vehevim, Benela Mal Holland Vehevim, it's by the Mincha, Malalan Bekumsoy Afkan Bekumsoy. You take a koimertz. Tisha says it's unusual that I ask you a question, is it this or that? And you reply to me, it's a koimus, neither. He says, Derech HaKmor sometimes to do that is to come up with the third option, which was never even entertained in the beginning. Rashi points out that you can't do a koimus because we're talking about hot coals, and you can't possibly do a koimus. But what the Gemara means to say is, the minimum is a koimus, which means a very, very small amount, literally a tiny amount. The koimus is very small, and that's how much you take out. It doesn't need to be literally a koimus. Okay. Well, not a mashu. I wouldn't say a mashu.
It's still be hot. This morning after.
Yeah, it must be the fire was burning all night long. And you take from it. Okay. New topic. Going back to now, the Torah says that a Yisroel is not allowed to do the avoid in the Beis HaMikdash. Omar Rav. There's only 4 avodas which are chayv misa. Meaning, a Yisroel is not allowed to do any of the avodas. He's not allowed to do zrika. He's not allowed to do kabbalah. He's not allowed to do halacha. But there's only 4 which he gets the death penalty for.
What's the rest allowed?
The rest is allowed. V'levi Omar, there's 5 after Tumas Hadesha. Today is very disturbed. We'll see. Oh, we didn't decide. Zvika, throwing on the mizbeach. That means, for example, walking with the blood or catching the blood, he's not allowed to, but he gets no misa. Zvika, v'haktor, that's put things on his beach. V'nisach hamayim, pouring the water, v'nisach hayayin. The problem with these categories, we're going to see that there's many subcategories. And this is disturbed why he chose this as 4 categories. Why didn't he make, for example, nisach hamayim and nisach hayayin as 1? And the other ones we're going to see, for example, aktor includes aktor of the koimus, aktor of animals, aktor of other things. So, okay, this is how he split it. 4 categories, which have many subcategories, which are chayv misa. Levi Almaf Tumas Hadesha, and there's one more, the taking of the Tumas Hadesha. Can you imagine? The Tumas Hadesha, which according to Shlokish, even the Baal Mum is allowed to be sold as chayv misa. V'chein Toni Levi Masniti af Tumas Hadesha. Levi wrote some writers, and he also says Tumas Hadesha. My time at the Rav. So we're going to be dashing a certain pasuk. And the pasuk there, even though many times in the Torah says that Yisrael shouldn't do avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, in one place the Torah puts it out as chayav misa. Let's read the pasuk very, very carefully. Ve'ato bonecho etoch tishbu es kunaschem l'chol dvar hamizbeach, for anything to do with the mizbeach, u'lebeis la'pavoiches, for inside the pavoiches, ve'abadotem avodas ma'atono etin es kunaschem. Your avodah is avodah of gift. V'azor ha'korev, a stranger that comes close, Yoma shall be put to death. A Yisrael that does it gets chayav misa. Essentially, Rav darshans 2 droshes. 1, va'avadetem. You can split the word va'avadetem into 2 words. Avad, tom. If you've got the pasuk in front of you, by me it's a dalet. The old school have it, others have it. But va'avadetem, avad, tom. A complete work. Kabbalah is not a complete work. If you do Kabbalah and then you spit it, you've done nothing. Halacha is also not a complete work. The complete job is when you throw it to the Mizbeach. Haktorah is a complete job. When you walking with the limbs to the Mizbeach is not a complete job. Only a job which is completed by doing so, avad tom, yichad misa. Anything which is not completion, you're not chad misa. That's one drasha. A second drasha is avodas matana. Matana means something you put on, not something you take off. So let's, for example, I clean the menorah. According to Rav, would that be chad misa? I mean, Yisroel. Would that be chad misa? No, why not?
Taking out.
Avodas matana, giving, not taking. Let's say I prepare the wicks. Chad misa or not?
Yes. It's not,
It's not finishing.
It's got to be
Well, that's not chad misa. So it has to be finishing and giving. So that's why there's only 4 categories, and therefore the 4, very good. Is this case disturbing you? Again, let's see the Gemara inside. My time with John. Dichsiv ato bonecho etoch tishbus konaschem lechot v'amizbeach v'es apoiches avadet avodas matona tenis konaschem azar kov yumos. Avodas matona v'avodas siluk, giving, not taking. Avodatem avoda tamo v'lo avoda shesh achriya avoda, not an avoda which has avoda after that. Levi actually agrees with both of these drashas. But there's an extra word, lechol dvar mizbeach. All is spared, because of the dvar mizbeach. So that's coming to include one more. What does it come to include? Tumas attention. Okay. What does it do? The word kol? On Yom Kippur and other times, the Kohen would go into Beis Hamikdash and sprinkle inside Beis Hamikdash. The word kol, or the mitzvah, he would sprinkle towards the Beis Hamikdash. That's included in the word kol. So they both agree. Avodah tamo, finish, and they both agree avodas matana, but they both disagree regarding the word kol. Shmuel learns from kol what? Sorry, you got Levi. Levi learns from kol. Tumas hadeshen. Rav learns from kol. Oh, but the word kol is including more than what the Torah says. Rav says kol is coming to include zvika. The Gemara, what about Levi? That means Levi also should learn kol like Rav. Nafkele midvar bekol. Kol dvar hamizbeach is 2 extra words. It could have said la mizbeach. It could have said lidvar mizbeach. Lekol dvar mizbeach is extra 2 words. Rav dvar bekol dvar leidosh. Rav doesn't dash in us too. So very briefly, very quickly again. Avodah tamil completion. Avodah batana has to be a gift. Shmuel Levi, adds kol and dvar kol. One to tell you zvika in the Misai Beis Hamikdash, and also Tumas Hateshen. Rav only learns one to teach you the Azor inside Beis Hamikdash. Ve'ema, according to Levi, this is a kasha. Lechod v'amizbeach klal avodas maton prat klal uprat ebechal mashvat beprat. We have a rule: if you've got a klal uprat, we only go after the prat. If I say any avodah that he saw does is chayim misa, any avodah, and then I specify one, it's a klal, and then a prat, ein bechal mashvat beprat. Only what's in the prat. According to Levi, he said kol is a klal. Says everything, includes more. But the problem is, when does it include? It's at the beginning of the pasuk, lechod v'amizbeach. The end of the pasuk finishes off ba'adatem, which is avodah tamo, avodas matana, which is to give. So the prat comes later. Ein bechal mashvat beprat. So again, el mashvat beprat, avodas matana and avodas silukloi. Omar Kro says the Gemara Chavdalad on Beis, top of the page. When we base la paroiches ba'adatem. That means the way Rashi explains is when you have a klal and then straight away a prat, you say klal prat. Here the klal and prat is interrupted. The klal is le kol v'amizbeach. The prat is v'avadetem. But inside you've suddenly stuck in Beis HaParoiches. And in Beis HaParoiches you'd have this matana avodas siluk or bachutz afilu avodas siluk. So because it interrupts, it tells you only inside the Beis Hamikdash avodas matana, but outside the Beis Hamikdash avodas siluk. Hiyachi v'avadetem nami in Beis HaParoiches. That means like this. If you're saying that it's not a kalub prat, and what happens is inside the Beis Hamikdash is is an interruption, and that tells you that what's inside the Beis Hamikdash is not included in these rules. So there are 2 rules, 2 essential rules. What are the 2 essential rules? What are the 2 essential rules? Giving and finishing. Avodas tamor, completion. Matana, you're giving. These rules are not true when you go inside the Beis Hamikdash. Why they're not true when you go inside the Beis Hamikdash? Because it says a Beis Hamikdash, it sticks it inside. Is that true? And therefore, because of that, it's not a klal prat. If it's not a klal prat, so then let's get rid of the klal prat, and we should say that when you're coming inside the Beis Hamikdash, not only that means so since the Torah only says it regarding Beis Hamikdash, when you go outside the Beis Hamikdash, just like, for example, you hold that Tumas Hadesha, which is taking, is also Yichai Misa, because the Beis Hamikdash splits it. Also, the avodah, which is not a completed avodah, should also be Chai Bachutz. For example, what's a good example of Bachutz, the avodah which is not completing? No, that's not an avodah. What would be a simple example? Avodah which is not finishing Bachutz. What would be a good example? No, Shchit is not an avodah either. Kabbalah, catching the blood, Halacha, walking with the blood, should also be Chai Bisa. Answers the Gemara, Vavadatem, Hoda Alve Kvar, the word Vov is and Vavadatem. Now, if you look in the Pasuk very carefully, you literally see how Levi learns the Pasuk and you work out all the details. If you've got a Pasuk in front of you, it's very, very good. It says like this, all the Kohanim should guard the corner. L'chol Dvar Mizbeach refers to the avodah which is done outside the Beis Hamikdash. Ulim Beis Lapavoichas is inside the Beis Hamikdash. Now, Va'avadatem is with a Vov, and. Because it's with an and, it's referring to both things going back. That's the Mizbeach and the Paroiches. Va'avadatem and. If I say and, means it's adding to that which I said before. So the Mizbeach and the Paroiches are included in the rule of Va'avadatem avodat tamo. But when it says avodas matana, it doesn't say be'avodas matana, it just says avodas matana. So that teaches me that avodas matana is going back on the last thing, which is what? Beis Hamikdash, which is inside the Beis Hamikdash. The outside the Chodvam is Beach, I no longer have the rule of avodas matana, and therefore even avodas siluk is also chayv misa. I'm going to repeat it. Mamash Hashem. It's not so complicated. If you want to clear, it's really geschmack how it fits it in. Again, there are two rules. Abadata means avodah tama, complete avodah. Avodas matana means one giving, not taking. Levi holds. I don't know why I keep saying Shmuel. Rather than Shmuel's argument, here's Levi. Levi holds the second rule applies only inside the Beis Hamikdash. That means only inside the Beis Hamikdash you have to give, not take. Outside the Beis Hamikdash, even if you take, for example, the Mizbeach. But the other rule of Avadatem, that is completed avodah, that applies both in and out. Why? Because the Avadatem comes with a Vav, and so it's going back on both things, on Mizbeach and Beis Hamikdash. Mizbeach is outside in the Azara, and Beis Hamikdash is inside, going inside the Beis Hamikdash. Mashenkein, the avodas matana, which doesn't say and, is only going on the last thing, which is inside the Beis Hamikdash. But outside the Beis Hamikdash, even if you take off, you're also chayv. So now we ask a shayla according to Levi. Boy, rather, avodas siluk be'echa. We've got three places. You've got the Azar, you've got the Kodesh HaKadoshim. What about the middle place? For example, the avodah inside the middle of the Beis Hamikdash. What's that? For example, can you give me an example? Where's avodas siluk in the heichal? Cleaning, taking away the ashes from the menorah. Now, or cleaning, no, okay, or maybe cleaning the mizbeach pnimi. Now, where would you have siluk on the mizbeach hachitzon? Or it's when would you have siluk in the kodesh hakadoshim? On Yom Kippur. After you made the keteris and the ashes, you left it there, you came back a couple of hours later, and you took it all out. So, according to Levi, Tumas Hadeshin, he sort of does it, what happens? Chaimisa. If he goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim and he takes out the keteris, Chaimisa? No, not Chaimisa. Because he darshans avodas matana is going back with Beis Hamikdash. Avodas matana is giving, not taking. Giving, not taking. So inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, so if he walks into the Kodesh HaKadoshim on Yom Kippur and he takes out the Yitzhak and Kafel Machta, he's done the Tabla Aver, but he's not Chayv Misa. He's not Chayv Misa. Now, what about taking off the middle stage? And that is the Mizbeach Hazov, the Menorah, etc. Says the Gemara, Hoda Poshta Mi-Base, Veli Mi-Base. The Vav is spare. So therefore, it tells you that the Heichal is like the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So, if I was to clean the Mizbeach Azov, somebody else, no Moshe, I was to clean, Moshe, you Yisroel. If you were to clean the Mizbeach Azov, Chai Misa or not? No extra Vav. What's the extra Vav telling you? You're not Chai Misa. When you base that Paroiches, the Vav tells you that the Heichal is like the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you're not Chai Misa. If you do Truma Sadeshan, you'd be Chai Misa. It's a very strange thing. Okay. Elamato says the Gemara, all the Bosh Beis. Elamato, Zol Shesidas HaShulchan, a soul that sets up the Shulchan Lechayav. Why? Because it's inside the Heichal and it's Matana. A Kasidu Bazichin, it's not the end. Because after you put the bread, you still have to do Bazichin. Okay, says the Gemara. So Siddur Bazichin, if you spread the Bazichin, Lechayav. No, it's not also not the end. Why? A Kasiluk Lakto. You still need to remove the bread and then move the and then the Lavoina, put on his Beach. If you clean the manure, you can still need to put the wick. So it's not completed. Nosan pesila lechayv, put in the wick shvichayv. You can shemen. You still need to put in oil. It's not finished. Nosan shemen lechayv, put the oil shvichayv. Ikad loka shvichayv for that loka. Hilik lechayv had loka la avodah. Lighting is not an avodah. Why is lighting not an avodah? It says in the Meiri, lighting is not a job. All you're doing is transferring fire from one place to another. That's not considered a job, and if you're not chayav, it's not an avodah. Very more below. But Tanya, regarding sometimes a fire, there'll be 4 or 5 fires on this. Yes, but it's not considered an avodah. Avodah is considered chashivus. It's a choshva avodah. It's melocha not avodah. But Tanya, there were 4 or 5 fires on this beach. If one of them went out, so here they've got a picture of it. If one of them went out, what would you do?
Do the backup one.
Yes, but to make a backup one, there was a special avodah called to light the splinters, which was a very small job, but I don't know why they made a picture of it. There you can see. What he would do is he would take a torch, go to a place where there's a fire, and light the wood again. It's gone out. It's not such a brilliant picture. I wouldn't imagine it would look like that. A fire goes out, you'd see lots of wooden burning things. Okay, that's how it was. Okay. So the Maisa doing that, can he so do that? Now look at this pasuk very carefully. Whenever we use the word kohuna, we learn 2 things. What are the 2 things? Mon Tzvachim says this kohen, only a kohen, not a yisod, only a kohen with the 4 clothes. A kohen without his 4 clothes, not considered a kohen. So let's say you go and light one of the bonfires wearing only 3 clothes. What would be the din? Actually, chayav misa. Chayav misa. No, so Kadesh is back. Moch it's voloish. Liebe der Atzos Alisa, like the splinter steht hier bei Kohen. Kosher with 3 shots. Answers go Atzos Alisa avoiding. Setting another bonfire light, that's not avoiding. I'd look at avoiding. I just said nice well from Chaim Kafen. I don't know how many times I heard it from Chaim Kafen. The Rambam passes like this Gemara, and therefore the Rambam passes that if he saw, let me saw. If I light the menorah, I have done nothing wrong. Why have I done nothing wrong? It's not an avodah. But if I clean the menorah, I'm chayav malchus, and I've been over, and I'm not chayav misa. Why am I not chayav misa? Because I haven't finished. Says Chaim Kafan, he bought it from many bad chassidus. How can that be? That cleaning the menorah, I've done a terrible habit. Rambam passes this. But lighting the menorah, Rambam writes, for example, that let's say, for argument's sake, no kohen can light the menorah. We take the menorah and we take it outside the Beis Hamikdash and somebody lights it. Alternatively, the Yisroel holds a very, very long lighter and he lights the menorah. Rashi, in fact, says that what you can do is you can take the bowl which has the oil inside and take it outside the Beis Hamikdash to light it.
If you clean it out like that, that's finishing a job, no?
Okay, but the question is the meaning at the moment. How could the Rambam write such thing that light the menorah? Says Chaim Kafan, preparing for a mitzvah is more important than doing the mitzvah itself. Cleaning the menorah is more important than lighting the menorah. It's a chassidish word that the Shem Yichud has more chashivah sometimes. Imagine say Shem Yichud than the first say when people spend longer than the Shem.
Why does the Shem Yichud longer than the book?
But now, he used to say, I don't know if he said this or I heard this from somebody else, but it's a very nice point. It's like this. The light in the menorah was chinuch, to bring light, Torah to the world. Anybody can go up to somebody and say, learn hard, daven hard. That's lighting the studies. But to prepare that the child should be in the right frame of mind to be able to hear the words of light and that he should light up, That means to be able to clean him, that he should be ready and he should be prepared, emotionally prepared, spiritually prepared. That requires a kohen, somebody who has knowledge of Yerusha Shamayim and Torah. And that's a very interesting thing, is that sometimes you see people, I remember years ago, about a choshev person, he came up to me, gave me a whole musad shouting, and he walked away feeling how good he was with himself. And he shouted at me, you've got to learn much harder. The reality is, he didn't do me a favor, because the fact is, all he was doing was, it's not really the right thing to do. I mean, that is, to light, to spread is not so hard. It is the ability to prepare, that the child should be prepared and ready to be lit, that requires. Therefore, that's why the preparing of the menorah was a bigger job than lighting the menorah. And just various things that we showed it to you today, the Chaim HaKadosh with Pashas Ba'aloischa says, based on this Rashi, that it's very strange. Rashi doesn't say completely, but that you sometimes, to light the menorah, if a Kohen can do it, they would bend the branches all the way out of the Beis Hamikdash. That's not how they did it. And somebody would light it. So he said like this, that once it was lit, you'd bend it back into shape. So he says that therefore Aaron HaKohen was very, very thrilled with the ability of lighting the menorah. The famous Rashi that Aaron HaKohen was very disappointed. I didn't help build the Mishkan. So Hashem said to him, don't worry, you light the menorah. And the famous question is, what's helping light the menorah? He says, because every time he lit the menorah, he would make sure that the menorah was back in shape. Therefore, he was, so to speak, finishing the building of the Mishkan every time he lit the menorah. Okay, look. Says the Gemara like this. Elamato. Zol shesidus amarocha, zol that spreads the wood lechayev, because it's doing a job. Eke siddush ne'gzir eitzim, you still have to put the 2 planks of wood. Siddush ne'gzirim lechayev, eke siddush ne'gzir. So it's not really finished. Maybe more bama basma b'yichna zol siddush ne'gzir eitzim lechayev. Welcome if you masa over the tamo, you masa over the tamo. It's called machlekes when it's avoid the tamo to finish, to put the wood on the mizbeach without putting the limbs. One says it is because you put all the wood. One says it isn't because you haven't yet done the limbs. What are the things which is zol chayv zrikas adam benifnim benifnai? Sprinkle the blood on the outside of the mizbeach or inside. When would you sprinkle inside? Yom Kippur. There's actually 5 times you sprinkle inside. Right, that's the Yom Kippur, right? Yom Kippur. Chatas Pnimi. When would you get Chatas Pnimi? If a Kohen Gadol by mistake do Avodah Zarah, or if Roy Kleisel do Avodah Zarah, or if a king would do Avodah Zarah, and finally the 2 animals in Yom Kippur. There are 5 times that you sprinkle blood inside the basement. Okay, so that's v'hamazah b'chatas oif. You sprinkle the chatas oif. V'hamatzah, if he squeezes the animal, the bird, onto the mizbeach to make the blood drip. V'hamakti b'olei hasoif, a person puts the olei hasoif in the mizbeach. V'hamanasech sheish lug mayim v'sheish lug yayin, and he pours 3 lug of water, 3 lug of wine. But does not say in this list is tumas hadeshen. That's a vayat to Talik Vosat Levi. Avodah shazor chayv misa. Hamemes hadeshen. Somebody does tumas hadeshen is chayv misa. Whether a person puts in his back something kosher, something posel, is chayv misa. If I'm Yisroel, and I put in his back something posel, then I'm chayv misa because I finished the avodah. We should all say it doesn't mean anything. If I put chas v'sholem a deer on mizbeach, I'm not chayv misa. That's not haktor. We're talking about a korban which was basically kosher. And right at the end, something went wrong. It became a bit tomei. It became, something went wrong. But if a proper, something completely possible, then he saw it's not chamis. Okay. The Mishnah says that they would do a raffle, then they would all separate, disperse, and then they would do another lottery, and then they would disperse, and do another one 4 times. Why would they raffle? Like we said, in order that we should know who gets it, and without any fighting. Why do they do it in one after the next? Why not just do one go? Do a raffle and do all 4 raffles in one go. To stir up the entire Azor, you should go to the Beis Hamikdash with excitement and enthusiasm. And if you make one raffle, at the end of the day, everything's finished. Every time you make a raffle, it makes a whole new excitement, a new maimed. So that's why they made 4 different raffles. Which clothes the Kohanim wear during the raffle? Again, you'd wake up early in the morning. The first thing was Tumas Hadeshen, and that was done with a raffle. If you remember, you take off the hat, and everybody would stick out a finger. Oh, we're going to see. Mamafis. They would wear the normal weekday clothes. Rav Sheshes on big day kodesh, they would wear big day korona. Big day choy, deal with big day kodesh. If you tell them to wear kalim clothes, his voice the chamsi, the bullies, and he's already wearing his kalim clothes, and he thinks he's going to get it. And then the current counting goes the face, the next one after him gets all upset, this bully. And he's already wearing the right clothes. What will he do? He'll force himself and just do it. If he has to go and change his clothes, by the time he has to change his clothes, he'll cool down, and there'll be other Kohanim to stop him, so he won't be able to. But if you start putting on him the right clothes, and then you tell him you can't do it because you didn't get the number, he'll just push his way and do it. So better he should wear weekday clothes. But better he should wear hektish clothes. If you say weekday clothes, imagine the Kohen, you say, right, it's your turn, Todd, right? And you're so excited, it's my turn after months of getting up every morning early. Finally, 9 number came up. What will you do? Run up to the Mizbeach and do it without realizing, hey, you're still wearing your weekday clothes. So we prefer that you should wear your Kodesh clothes. So Machlokes of Nachman and Sheshes, which clothes did they wear at the time of the lottery? And I saw this sefer. He paskans big day Kodesh. So I don't know where you look. If you see they're all wearing, here, you see they're all wearing the very nice Kalim clothes, showing the raffle with all stick out the finger. So they obviously paskan like of Sheshes. And the Rambam also passes like that. So Maris Yoma and the Rambam paskan, you wear Kodesh clothes. Omar Nachman, Minor Minor. I'm going to just do to about 10 lines down the Chafel Madalev. As we always say, Thursday, Friday, I like to get tiny. Omar Nachman, Minor Minor, how do I know it? Nachman wants to prove that what? That they wore weekday clothes. I should say, not weekday, what's a better word for it? Ordinary clothes. That's that. Non-sacred clothes. Non-sacred clothes. That's that. They gave them over to Gaboim. We once mentioned, nowadays we use a chazan for the one shliach tzibur, but really chazan in the olden days was the gab. But why was it called a chazan? Because chazan, because the word lachzo is to see, he oversaw. They gave them to the Gaboim. They would take off their clothes. It's interesting, it seems that they would actually dress the Kohanim, even though Kohanim perfectly capable of dressing themselves. Since it is a cover to wear the big day kahuna, it's like when you put on the Sefer Torah, it's a covered, it's a chashiva, so they would dress in their clothes. They would take everything off except for the trousers. Maila, we're talking about pashtas, but it's that the people that won, they would then take off their clothes and leave on the trousers. Now, if they were like of Sheshes, that they were already wearing, like in the pictures, their big day kahuna, what are we doing? They win the raffle, go and do it. What do they need to go and get dressed for? The Mishnah says, as soon as they won, the next thing that they would do is go and have the clothes changed. What are we talking about? Hey, they've just had they've already got the clothes on. Must be that what? They were wearing non-sacred clothes, ordinary clothes, and therefore after you win your raffle, the next thing you need to do is get dressed. Everybody got into their kodshim clothes. And those that did not get chosen, they would get undressed. Again, the Mishnah says that as soon as the raffle was finished, they would get undressed. According to Rav Nachman, he says it's a brilliant proof to me. It's talking about the people that won the raffle. The first thing you did when you won the raffle was get dressed into kodshim clothes. Shishas says no. On the contrary, we're talking about people that did not win the raffle. They would get dressed in kodshim clothes, and after not winning, they would then get back into the weekday clothes. Says the Gemara, we'll talk about the people that won it. They would leave the trousers on. Let me like this. If we talk about the people like the way Nachman understood it, we're talking about people that won it. And what happened was, what did they do? They were now getting dressed from weekday to Kodesh. That's how Nachman explained it. Nachman again, we have a Mishnah that says that after the raffle they would get dressed. When Nachman explains, it's referring to the people that won the raffle, and they will now get dressed into the Kodesh clothes. What's the expression we know? Leave the trousers. It means like this, that they were wearing ordinary clothes. You would take everything off except for the trousers, put the kodshim clothes on, and then change the trousers, and that would be a form of modesty, because if you put your shirt on, And then the trousers, you'd be standing around, the shirt would cover a little bit, and therefore it would be more modest. But is that good? You have to put the trousers on first. So how can the Mishnah say that you'd leave the trousers on? You can't leave the trousers on. On the contrary, you have to take the trousers off and put those on first. Is a riot to Rav Sheshes. Again, according to Rav Nachman, that we're talking about weekday Tish Kodesh, and we're talking about the people that want it. What's the Mishnah saying? Leave on the weekday the trousers. You then leave the trousers on. Because if you leave the trousers on, you're going to put on all the Kodshim clothes, and then the last thing you'll do is swap the trousers. But it's not true. The trousers always come on first. Well, Tanya, that the first the trousers go on. The way Rav Nachman explains like this. First you put on the Kodesh clothes, trousers. They're only left on the trousers. Meaning like this. We'll go according to explain according to Rav Nachman, according to Rav Sheshes, and then here we'll stop. The Mishnah says that after the raffle they would get dressed. According to Rav Nachman, they would get dressed during the raffle in weekday clothes. And what they would do is like this. The first thing they would do is take off their ordinary, the non-sacred trousers, take off the trousers, and put on Kodesh trousers. Then they would still have on them all the other clothes. By doing that, it was not so unsneeristic because they had other clothes on. All you were doing was changing the trousers, and then you would change everything else. And then that way you kept both. You had sneers, plus the Kodesh trousers went on first. That's how Nachman explains. According to Rav Sheshes, we're talking about the people who did not win, and they were already in Kodesh clothes, and we would slowly take off all their clothes, but we left them on with the trousers because we didn't want them to walk out with nothing. But they already were in Big Day Kodesh. We take off everything off except for the trousers which we left on. Okay, now we're going to we're going to learn the proof of Rav Sheshes that they used to wear. According to Rav Sheshes, what did they wear? Kodesh clothes, which is how we passed them.